we're in again, going back to 2020, 2021, 2022, where we're having multiple offers. It's a little crazy, but so they had asked if we would could get our mortgage commitment sooner, because obviously if we have mortgage commitment, it makes their offer stronger. And we've put off. I mean, the bank has already done everything. They've already done appraisal, the whole 9 yards. So it's already cost my client a bit of money. Um, and now they want us to do inspections. So I came back to the listing agent and said, sure, write up an addendum that if, your seller can't find anything, that they will pay for our inspection. We'll get the inspection done so that it's done. So she's supposed to talk to her agent. It's been going on now for over a month. So, you know, I don't want it to fall apart, but I also don't want to cost my client money. So hopefully the seller agrees to that. And then we can get those inspections out of the way. I did talk to the lender and they should have it back in a week, but sometimes these deals aren't easy and they don't go as planned. But yeah, hopefully we can get this deal together.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a good topic to make sure you guys understand when you're paying for stuff that it might not close. And are your clients okay with that? And depending on who's got the leverage in the deal, um, you got to figure out who's paying for stuff, right? When we got multiple offers, a lot of times the seller's going to go, look, either you do inspections and you pay for it, and if this deal doesn't happen, we'll just pick somebody else that is willing to spend the $600, whatever the case might be, to do the inspection. So understand your leverage, but make sure you just at least understand the process. Hey, Mr. Buyer, just want to let you know, you might spend this money on an appraisal, this money on inspection, and we might not even buy this house. So are you good with that when we have contingencies, like the seller's got something to do? Chris just put something in the chat. She was just curious. It sounds like you did appraisal before inspection on this one.
Yeah, I had no idea that the lender did that. I found out from the listing agent because, of course, they call the listing agent for appraisal. He has been in all of the chats between me and my client. He was aware. So I'm assuming that they're going to eat that cost. You would hope that they're going to eat that cost, seeing that they ordered it prematurely. Title's been ordered, everything. Like, everybody's been in the loop. Like, hey, just so you know, seller has nowhere to go. We're holding off of inspections. It was in our offer. It was in all of the emails, but everything's been ordered. So I'm hoping this deal stays together. The seller just needs to find somewhere to go.
So this is just a good little topic in it of itself. Erica or Dan, I don't know which one of you guys wants to maybe take this one. How do you guys handle that ordering of the appraisal process? Would something ever get ordered without the buyer knowing that they're about to incur a cost, or?
So anytime we order an appraisal, they're going to get a payment link. And what I always tell my buyer, because we just kind of have like a standard protocol so it doesn't get missed either, because we're relying on humans. And anytime we put a human in charge of something, things can go wrong. So, once they sign all their disclosures, our process is required to order title and appraisal. A payment link is sent to the buyer. And what I usually tell the buyer is, listen, you don't have to pay for that until you're happy with inspections and 100% ready to move forward. When you pay for that, that's when it's going to happen. So we always send them the link, and then that's usually the guidance I give them. So, if you're waiting for home inspection to see what the results are, wait for home inspection. If you're waiting for a contingency, wait for contingency. Don't pay for it. Don't take money out of your bank account until you're 100% moving forward with this property.
Anybody have any other thoughts around ordering of home inspection, ordering of the appraisal, timing of either of these things? Margaretta.
Morning. Actually, I just came across something where the lender reached out. Actually, it was an appraiser reached out to me to set up an appointment to do appraisal, but the deal fell apart like literally 2 days prior. The buyer withdrew after inspections consideration, but it wasn't somehow communicated to the appraiser. So obviously I said, hey, the deal's done. But there was a appraiser, knocking on the door. So you never know how those things work.
Yeah, again, we're trying to be as efficient as possible. We really promote use of transaction coordinators, especially if you're a busy agent and you've got a lot of balls in the air. Because, like Eric just said, we're all human. We can miss stuff. Even with a transaction coordinator, you can miss stuff. But sticking to systems, process, checklists, you really look foolish when stuff like that happens. So we're trying to avoid that at all costs. Any other thoughts on this, or we're going to let the finance guys kind of take over?
I
I'll
have
touch
a
base
thought.
on that one.
Oh,
Just, I
go
just
ahead,
want to
Eric.
touch base on that, what happened there. A lot of times I know sometimes title will get notified, hey, this deal fell apart. Don't bother writing the purchase agreement. Don't assume that title's going to tell us as the lender. We need someone to tell us so that we can cancel that appraisal. So that potentially could have been why that happened.
Yeah. So when we're doing our communications, I always think best practice is if something's changing, everybody gets notified. Title, when Eric's saying title, that's the same as attorney for attorney states, right? So lender's got to get notified, attorney or title's got to get notified, other side's got to get notified, buyer's got to get notified. Like everybody should be on those things, when there's a big change like that, so that we don't have a slip up. Chris.
In my practice, and this is just the way I do it, obviously, but even when there is um, contingent on finding suitable housing, I do always suggest that we do inspections right away, and it can be, a chance in case they don't find anything. Although, knock on wood, I've never had it happen that they don't find anything because I help them find something if I have to. But the point is, I'm not going to hold up my people for 30 to 45 days while you go and find something. If they start doing inspections and they find that there's a crack in the foundation or whatever, something that they find not acceptable. And now you've just wasted that time when you could have been in and out of there in a week and onto another property. So that's just my take.
Yeah. All right. And
Yeah,
this is,
that
go
was
ahead, Amy.
my that's what I wanted to do. This client is tight on money. This is a condo. So I had every single document. And there's not a whole lot, as we all know, in a condo. I mean, yes, stuff can happen. But other than pretty much interior water heater, things like that. So I'm not concerned that something's going to come up. She just doesn't have the extra money, especially if it falls apart and she has to do it again. So the client just didn't want to do it. So
Yeah, and that's how these all should roll, guys, right? You should be educated as an agent and sitting down with your client to say, hey, here's your options. Here's why I think it's a good idea, even if we don't have to do inspections now. Here's where I think it's a good idea to do inspections now, because we could potentially lose 30, 45, 60, 90 days, whatever it's going to take them to go find that suitable housing. And we could have missed out on another property, right? And they could come back and say, just, well, I can't swing. Like, I've got the $500 for this inspection. If this doesn't go through, like scraping together another $500 for another inspection on another property could be tight. Okay. Then that's the chance that you're taking. We're going to potentially miss out on other properties if this one were to fall apart. So it's conversations, it's educating, it's seeing into the future a little bit, right? And knowing to tell your client about these little circumstances. Right? The more that we can have conversations so that there's no surprises, which is the beauty of this call. So good stuff. Anybody else think of something with regards to timing, inspections, appraisals, and ordering of such? All right. I know ordering of the title itself can be a little dicey, because that's another one that you're paying for and potentially not moving forward. The problem is when you find issues with title, sometimes they can take much longer to resolve. So a lot of these attorneys don't want to order the title until we're through inspections. So that's a good conversation that you should be having with your title company or attorney. What happens if this doesn't move forward? And I just paid for the title, or when do you recommend that we do it? Because as agents, we always want it right up front, right? And some of these attorneys, especially those that do higher volume, they may have discounts, or they may get a couple a month where the title company goes, hey, you know what, we're not going to charge you on that one, or we're only going to charge you 50% on that title search because you do so much business with us. So having that conversation with the title or attorney to understand how are those costs going to break down if this deal doesn't move forward. All right, let's turn it over to Eric and Dan. I know you guys had a couple of different topics that you guys wanted to chat about today, so I'll let you guys have the floor here.
Good. So I'll jump in here first. I want to, so I'll preface this with like, this is like the ideal deal, even, you know what I mean? Like without big bumps in the road. So a lot of times, obviously Thursday, Friday, we get a call. We're going to put an offer in. Hey, can you close this loan in 30 days? My answer is always, yes, we can. So Friday, you submit that offer. The listing agent maybe brings it to the seller on Saturday. They mull it over till Sunday. Then they finally say, yeah, you know what, we're gonna do it. Now they got to sign their side. Maybe the listing agent sends you back the accepted offer on Monday. You submit it to your TC. You got to call your buyers, say, hey, listen, here's our list of preferred attorneys. Here's who I recommend. Who do you want to move forward with? Then you convey that to the TC. So maybe Monday or Tuesday, we're getting that accepted offer, the transaction sheet, and we can start on our end, putting together disclosures for the client so that we can send those out so we can start taking the next steps. So you look at that, that's already 4 days out of the 30. So then we'll say Tuesday, the client reviews all of our documents, agrees to move forward with us. You sign everything. So now at this point, you're still in inspection period. So we order title and appraisal. The attorney's not going to move forward with that title search until after inspection period, and there's a signed contract in place. So that's put on hold. The buyer doesn't want to pay for the appraisal, obviously, until after inspection. So that's kind of put on hold. So we're kind of going a holding pattern for almost that whole week. You get through inspections hopefully by, Thursday or Friday, and then everybody gets the green light maybe the following Monday. So now we've used up 7 out of the 30 days already before we really, really start moving forward. Title usually takes about, I would say, 10 days between drafting the contract, circulating it for signatures, getting the actual search, and then writing up the title and providing it to us. Same thing with appraisal. We know it gets paid for, then they got to contact the listing agent, got to find out when, they can get in that property. Obviously, the sellers have to coordinate when it's good for them. Then the appraiser has to write the report and all that. So this is still running on perfect timeline. So let's say it's 10 days out. So we've got 10 plus the other 7. We're 17 days into this 30-day close. So at that point now, we've got 13 days left to hit the finish line. And we might be just, trying to button up a few little things with the client. They wrote a earnest money deposit check at offer. They wrote another check to bind at contract. We're waiting for it to clear their bank account. We've got to get that bank statement showing both leaving their account so we can see their updated balance. So we know how much money they have left. So the client's, trying to figure out how to work their online banking or go to the bank and get a printout. We're getting verifications of employment. We're waiting on a third party, at their business to fill that out. So all of a sudden, that's another 2 or 3 days. We're just, buttoning up stuff. Boom, we're at the 10 days left to go, and commitments due in a day. And we literally, in the last 3 days, just got all the pieces of the puzzle because we were waiting for that title. We were waiting for that appraisal. Maybe we're waiting for that verification of employment. So I just kind of want to go over that because sometimes, if we need a 1 or 2 day extension on that commitment, it's not because something's wrong. It's not because somebody did a bad job. It's just, we literally get down to that crunch time and everything comes in and we've got 2 or 3 days to try to close that loan. It really, that's kind of how it works behind the scenes. So just so everybody kind of has an understanding of that, of how tight, when we say 30 days, but we end up pulling it off. We do close within 30. But it can get a little tight right around that commitment. I just want to kind of explain why we're always like right at that day. It's not because of us. We're a lot of third parties, appraisal, attorney, the employer, the borrower, things like that. Things we just, we can't control because some of those things just do actually take time to happen.
Anybody have any questions kind of on timeline or doc collection? It seems to me, I've been doing this a while and talking to the lenders. It seems to me the thing that typically is holding up the lending side is the borrower getting them the documents in a timely manner. The documents they need, complete full documents. They're not missing pages 3, 4, and 5 of the bank statement, right? Like the full thing, everything in. Because I've seen lenders where, one lender can't do the deal. And then, okay, so Semper says, hey, I can save that deal. Get me everything. Now, at this point, the borrower had everything together. So now we get a full file over to them. Maybe we've even got an appraisal that they can use, right? And those things, sometimes I feel like it's 2 or 3 days and we're good because everything was already packaged up. So I don't know if that's a fair statement, Eric. Like if I had all the docs on day one, I had the title in hand, I've got an appraisal in front of me, on day one, I've got a contract, I've got an appraisal, I've got the title, and I've got all of their documents. How long before you can clear that deal?
Oh, if I had everything on a Monday, we could potentially be clear to close by Thursday or Friday.
Yeah. So it could be 3 or 4 days, right? When they have everything up front. It's just everything's not there. It's kind of slow dripping in over 20 days. So, exactly. And then that's one of the documents is wrong. And so they got to go back to the borrower and be like, that's not what I meant. I meant it like this, or what you submitted is not right, or that's the wrong year of tax returns, or, Margaret, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and I think that one of the biggest challenges around that topic I hear from the buyers, they're complaining to the realtor, why do I need to submit everything? It's why all this work, I've already submitted it. It's like, I guess and I tried to do a better job of explaining during that, consultation about the process on how the lending aspect kind of works, but you do get a lot of feedback from the buyer kind of bitching about stuff. Why is this happening again? I did this.
So I'll jump in on that. So the biggest thing that happens there is we meet the client, let's say in February. We get their pay stubs, their W-2s, their bank statements. We give them a pre-approval. They're out looking for a house. They don't go into contract until, let's say, April 1st. And we're trying to close in April. So now the pay stubs I have are from February. The bank statements from January, because that's all that was available in February when I was pre-approved them. In lending, those documents have to be within 30 days of the closing date. So if we're closing on April 30th, the oldest the pay stub could be would be March 30th. The oldest the bank statement could be would be March 30th. So that's what happens when we get under contract on April 1st. We're like, hey, we need your bank statement. Hey, we need your pay stub. The documents that we got at pre-approval, unfortunately, they've expired. So we have to get them again. And that's why they feel like, I already gave them this. Why am I doing it again? It's because of the age of the document.
Yeah, and then totally get that. It's just, I think we as realtors, maybe like if we are in the transaction and it is over that 30-day period, whatever the expiration is on those things, you got to explain to them, hey, they will need this information again. It's not because they're like, oh, they feel like it's something out of normal, but you have to normalize that, I think, as a realtor to the buyer. That's my point.
Yeah. And another
exactly
part
it.
on that topic as well, kind of going into what Eric was talking about with the timelines, and even going on another topic I wanted to bring up. But when we're talking about their earnest money deposit, typically in Massachusetts, also you're making two different deposits. So that's something that we're always coming back to the clients and trying to get their updated account statements to show that second earnest money deposit coming out. Now, as we've been kind of dealing with this obviously for a long time, there are certain little loopholes within underwriting guidelines and certain programs regarding documenting earnest money deposits, and just kind of looking to really try to simplify things. Now, one of those loopholes is with FHA. If the overall earnest money deposit the borrower is giving is 1% or less than 1% of the purchase price of the home, it eliminates a lot of the sourcing requirements that we have as a lender. So, a lot of times you're looking to, maybe look to make a stronger offer by giving a larger deposit up front. But now strategically, sometimes, like in some cases, it won't matter when we know, the client's a good client. He's got $50,000 in his account, liquid, ready to go. We're going to do this deposit for 10 grand. And okay, easy enough. He'll update it for us. But sometimes we have FHA buyers where we're maybe doing down payment assistance with them and trying to kind of scrape all the money together. We're maybe getting seller credits, and they're going to make their deposit as well. If we keep that deposit that they make limited to 1% or less, then it eliminates the requirement for us to source and season that deposit, which is something that comes up quite a lot when we're dealing with people. They might have gone in and deposited cash into their account, and now they want to go use that for their earnest money, and it can't be used. So by keeping that under 1% is something that we can do to avoid some of those issues that come up, from time to time.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Dan. I hadn't heard that. So $500,000 house. Let's get a $4,999 deposit, and we don't have to source it. So just something to think
Yeah,
about.
actually, I want to say it can be 1%. Let me
Okay.
just double check on that right now.
More than one,
does
so we
say-
could go a $5,000 deposit on that deal.
No, it does say less than 1%. So yeah,
Okay.
you'll make it less than 1%.
And that comes down to like a big thing of communication with us. We gave you the pre-approval. If we don't have a conversation before you put that offer in, we can't help you avoid some of this stuff. We might be like, hey, we know this client's getting a gift, and mom and dad really don't want to show their kid the bank statements. Hey, why don't we just, we're buying a $500,000 house, we're going FHA. Why don't we just have them, them give them the money right before, and we'll do a $1,000 offer and maybe $3,500 to bind. That keeps us at $4,500. We don't have to source that stuff out. It just makes less paperwork that has to be gathered, which, like we said, when we're getting down to that crunch time, something that could be done in 2 days now turns into 4 and 5 because they got to drive to their mom's house, help mom with her online banking to get the paperwork because maybe mom's not good with the computer.
Yeah, and it again comes to conversations, guys. Having these conversations with your borrower at a buyer's presentation. Hey, look, it's going to be like taking a blood. They're going to ask you a million questions. They're going to ask for a lot of documentation, but that's why I use these preferreds. Because when you use some of these online guys, they ask for one document or no documents, and then they give you the pre-approval for X, and then we find your dream home, and then they start asking you for all the documents later, and we don't qualify for that. And now we've wasted all of our time and energy. So, a good lender should be asking for all of these documents up front, and then hopefully that's enough to satisfy the underwriter. Maybe Eric or Dan, you guys could give a couple of scenarios where, like, what's your standard stuff? We need tax returns, we need pay stubs, we need bank statements. What else is like a standard? You got an A+ borrower. What else do you need?
Yeah. So A+ borrower, somebody who is just a regular W-2 employee. They go to work and they get paid to work. It's very simple. We're going to get their W-2s over the last 2 years. We're going to get their pay stubs over the last 30 days and their bank statements typically over the last 2 months. A photo ID, and that is the full checklist really for an initial pre-approval. Then from there, we're going to look at
tax return in there.
Typically not tax returns for somebody who is not. We need tax returns if you're self-employed or if you have rental property income. If you have other income that is only shown and described on your tax returns, then we need to show it. But if we're only relying on your W-2 income that you make at work to qualify for your loan, then we're going to verify it with your W-2s and your pay stubs. We're also, during processing, we'll get a verification of employment from your employer. In some cases, we'll ask to get that verification before issuing a pre-approval, depending on that person's, the way they get paid. But for someone who gets like a salary and they get paid biweekly, and every 2 weeks they have 80 hours on their paycheck, they make the same amount. Like, that is so simple. We just get pay stubs, W-2s, then we look, where's your down payment coming from? And then
So Dan, what's the scenario where you get all that, right? And then you come back and ask for more docs, right? What are some, just run through some of those scenarios just so we're educated on it. What are those scenarios where, not the updated thing that Eric's talking about. What does underwriting come back and say, hey, for this guy, I need X, Y, and Z. What are some of those
all
things?
right, well, let's say this person isn't the 40, the full, this the regular 80 hours on the paycheck type thing, and they get some overtime. Or let's say, a lot of times it's like, say, nurses, right? They have these variable hours that they work, and they'll get different shift differentials within their income. They get base and overtime and bonus income, and sometimes we need to be able to break all that down. Or if their income is variable, then we need to be able to break it down and average it over time. So that's sometimes depend, like if that were that person's employment that we're digging into, like W-2 employment, but they're not, your regular salary. So then it's kind of, getting into exactly how they get paid. Now maybe it's somebody who has another property. So, they own their house now, they've got a rental property that they rent out to, and they want to go buy, another primary home, say. Right. So we need to kind of get into everything now. We're going to show their tax returns for their rental property. Now we're going to get into that. We want to know the mortgages on the rental property, the taxes and insurance on it. So what those property related expenses are, and then what their income is. And we see that on their tax returns as well. And then whatever else is on.
On those types of things, Dan, do you see it where the client just didn't even tell you about a rental property up front? It's like,
Sometimes.
yeah. Because if they told you rental property up front, hey, I'm a nurse, I got these weird hours, I do own a rental property, then on the initial list, you're saying, I need the mortgage docs, right? I need, I'm going to need tax returns. We're not waiting on that stuff. We're asking for all of that once I know it.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And then even so, like the second level to that, like if we have the conversation and I say, all right, you're going to go on, you're going to do your application, our application is intuitive. So as you type on there that you're self-employed, it's now going to ask you to upload your tax returns. But if you just list on there that you work for an employer, and when you get to that doc checklist to start uploading documents, it's only going to ask for your W-2s. So if they enter it correctly, then it'll give them the correct checklist. And then also within my conversation with them, I'll tell them, hey, listen, you're going to need to give me your tax returns because you have these other properties. And then from there, we go through and we review it. And then, if there is anything additional needed, we're going to go back and let them know right away as well. But the website's pretty good for that because, like I said, it knows if they put in there that they're self-employed, it's asking them for their tax returns. And then we can go in there and tinker with it too.
So here, I'll give you guys a crazy scenario, and it sounds crazy, but it comes up more than you think. So up front, we do their application, we access their credit, only one mortgage shows up or no mortgage, whatever. So we're aware of that. We get under contract, and then when the underwriter gets to the file, they pull this thing called LexisNexis that just double checks and make sure, hey, do you not own something else you forgot to tell us about? And it comes up that they own a house on 56 Jasper. And we call the client and we go, hey, what's 56 Jasper? And they say, that's my mom's house. And then we say, well, this says you own it. Well, not really, but they just put me on the deed in case something happened. Well, they put you on the deed, that makes you an owner. Now, all of a sudden, we're trying to verify, hey, what are the taxes and insurance on that property? Because technically now as an owner, you're just as responsible as mom and dad from a lending standpoint. And now we've got to add that to the debt to income that we didn't know about. And believe it or not, this pops up more times than you would think it does, you know, because they really don't believe that they own that property. They just believe they're on the deed in case mom and dad die, but they really do own it.
And then that same report also picks up on any other filings against the client. So any judgments against them, obviously like bankruptcies and stuff like that will show up on our credit report most of the time. But if they have a judgment against them from a bank because they had an account going to a collection that they never paid, it got charged off, and then like from our standpoint, like from underwriting, if it's only a charged off account and it's on their credit report as a charged off account and it still runs through and gets an approval through underwriting, then we don't really care about it. But if it did go to the point where it was recorded in the court as a judgment against them and they lost it to Capital One and they owe them $3,800 or whatever, then that sometimes has to be settled up. Not all the time, but sometimes. And that is something that the borrower may not tell us about, but we'll find out with that LexisNexis report that Eric was talking about.
Anybody on the call have something happen on a deal that's just top of mind for you? Hey, I had this happen with one of my clients. They didn't tell the lender about this, and that ended up messing up the deal. Or anything else coming to mind that would be just a good share for the group? Something else that just comes to mind that I feel like people probably aren't going to be super honest right up front. I see your hand, Linda, would be like child support payments. So I don't know necessarily where that comes up in the conversation, but I could see that one not getting disclosed up front, and all of a sudden now we got to document or show documentation or something around that. Linda?
Yeah, we had the strangest situation. We had a listing and everything was going very smoothly with our buyer. And in the 11th hour, we got a notification that they weren't going to be able to get financing. Well, why? Well, because we found out that they have an $1,800 Tesla lease. And to me, you would think that something like that would come up straight away on a credit report. So how did that get buried until, like a week before the closing?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that it depends on the timing of it. Like if the guy had the lease on his credit for the last 12 months, I'm sure they probably wouldn't have missed it. If it's something where, sometimes it involves the lender looking at the actual inquiries that show up on the on the credit report and asking about them. Because if I pull a credit report today, and you went to a car dealership 2 weeks ago and you bought a car, that account isn't going to show up today on your credit report. But there would be some inquiries that show that you went to Tarbox Toyota, or that Tarbox Toyota ran your Wells Fargo auto inquiry. Like I'll see some type of indication that there was an inquiry that makes me think that you might have bought something. And it's up to the lender and the loan officer to ask about that when they do the application. I don't know on the timing of that. Now the next level is, what if I ran the credit and I did the pre-approval for you today, and then you come back 30 days now where you've gone under contract on something, but 2 weeks from now the guy goes and buys a car and he didn't tell me about it. Then that's like, hey, Mr. Barber, you have a new liability that that changed things from when we pre-approved you. But then again, still, that's up to us explaining to that guy, now that you're pre-approved, don't change anything. Don't have your credit checked. Don't open any new accounts. Don't make any major financial changes to your position right now.
So I'll touch on that. I know when I send out a pre-approval, in the body of my email, I literally put that, the do's and don'ts from today forward. Then when they go into contract, when we send out our initial disclosure, the very first page, before they even get to see numbers, they have to initial next, I believe it's 12 or 13 lines of telling them the do's and don'ts from today forward. Once again, like we literally tell them, do not change jobs. Do not go buy a car. Do not deposit money without talking to your loan officer. We literally make them initial like 12 or 13 different items. Do they read it? Probably not. They just go click, 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 click. I'm trying to get a loan. But we try. I put it in the email. Whenever we talk to them, we tell them. We put it in our disclosure, and I'm sure you guys, when you have some of your initial conversations, are telling them. But some people still go and do it, and they say, "Well, I had no choice. I had to do it."
Yeah. I'll tell you the other thing that I've seen come up. I know we're over. If you got to drop off and go enjoy your Friday. But I think this stuff is important. I've seen this. They don't even change jobs. They just take a different position at the same company. Well, guess what? They were W-2 before, and their new job has a lower base and now has incentives. Right. And so that could mess up the loan because their guaranteed payments have now, they're 50% of what they were before or 3/4 of what they were before. And there's probably going to be some bonuses coming down the road. But right now, they don't have anything to document that they're going to get those bonuses. So
I had
go ahead.
almost exactly that come up, Steve, this
Yeah.
week with somebody who had been pre-approved with me for a while as like she worked for Chase Bank as like a personal banker. She made a base and she made pretty good bonus and commission income. That was the majority of her income. Now she got promoted to the branch manager, which is great because she's going to make a higher base. But her commissions are now going to be much less. So the net effect for her didn't necessarily help her out. Now, granted, she's in a pre-approval status. She's not, under contract, but just to kind of, note on what you were saying, like she's, for her, it's great. She's advancing in her role within her company. But the immediate effect on her qualifying income didn't immediately bump her up like she was hoping it would.
So these are the types of things that if we can get your borrowers to the lenders and have these conversations, and then you could literally just go to your employer and say, hey, look, I appreciate this bump. Can we do it in 30 days after I close? Right. And depending on the size of the employer, they might be able to pull something like that off. Right. Or maybe something's coming down the road with that employer that's actually going to help them. Well, hey, can we do it a little bit sooner? I'm trying to buy a house with that new thing, right? Like there could be something there as well. Maybe you're darn close and there's some sort of a promotion coming. If they work at a smaller company, they might be able to do something about it. So, having these conversations, I just always don't let somebody tell you, right? This is the number one thing that I want you guys to take away. Don't let your new purchaser tell you, well, I'm not buying for 6 to 12 months. I'll get pre-approved then. That's the absolute worst thing that they could do. The immediate response should be, that is awesome. We've got 6 to 12 months to plan for this. Let me put you on a 3-way text with my lender. Let's get you over there and let's start having the conversations so that I can get you into the best loan product possible. Right? Over the next 6 to 12 months, maybe something we can get changed on the way you're getting paid. Maybe we can increase your credit, whatever the case might be. But we might be able to make a couple of tweaks that get you a new loan product that you don't qualify for right now. So you've got to get these people over ASAP. It's in their best interest. It's in everybody's best interest to have these conversations as soon as possible. So let's end on that note. This is a great call. Appreciate all the input, all the little stories, anecdotes, really, really help to drive this stuff home. So thanks, Dan and Eric. Really appreciate you guys at Semper hopping on and spending your Friday mornings with us. I hope you guys go have a great Friday, a great weekend, put some deals together, and let's come back and do it again on Monday. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend,
Guys.
everybody.
Good weekend, guys.
Bye.